doesn't make any sense. I understand that it's punishing mom. These are the things that you need to consider when you're out there. I told you not to use, and you're now using.
You are watching a shocking hearing in a US courthouse. A man has been arrested for driving under the influence for the second time, while still on parole for his first offense. Did the judge hand down a harsh sentence? Is that even possible? Stay tuned for the full courtroom drama.
Roxanne, what
for something positive for THC.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay. I'm giving you a pass for 50 days from the time that we ordered you not to use. Don't use. Do you understand? So we ordered him not to use when? He's still testing positive. We ordered him not to use in January.
Well, he tested positive on April 7th, Judge, or not, on April 14th, rather.
Okay, but he's still testing positive. He's still using when we ordered him not to use.
Yes, Judge, but I understand that THC can take up to 30 days to work out of urine, so there's no evidence that he's been using beyond the
I ordered him not, let me see, hold on. I ordered him not to use in January. We are now,
Yes, Judge, but you've already addressed his drug use that resulted in the positive result on the April 14th drug test. You addressed that by chastising him in court and issuing several additional bond conditions. There's been no evidence that there's been any additional drug use for the court to address.
if I tested him in early January, then I'm gonna have an issue. But if it's the first time I tested him was in April, then I'm gonna give him the 50 days from the first time that we tested him. But if I tested him early on and he tested positive and I admonished him not to use and he's still testing positive, I'm gonna have an issue.
Okay.
I don't remember when the first time we tested him, so I'm gonna ask her. Roxanne, on Mr. Hernandez, when was the first time we tested him, please?
When he first tested positive for THC?
When did we first test him?
Oh, it was March 11th of this year.
Okay. So March 11th was the first test, and that was positive for,
Negative.
that was negative.
Yes, it was negative. And then on April 7th is when he was a no-show. And on April 14th, it was confirmed by lab that he was positive. for
No,
THC.
you're using. I'm sorry. I'm revoking your bond. You're going into custody.
I could just ask the court Mr. Hernandez's mother is out in the hallway. I'm certain that she's going to pay whatever the bond is. This revoking the bond here will only have the effect of punishing his mother, who will have to pay the bond. And I'd also just ask the judge you to consider that I understand that there may be evidence that he's used since he was ordered to not use. I understand that, but there's no evidence that he's using now or that he has used in the more than 2 weeks since the prior drug test.
We just tested him yesterday. He tested positive. He tested positive a week ago. I've ordered him not to use. I mean, if I don't, then I'm rewarding him for his behavior, Mr. Schlossberg. That doesn't make any sense. I understand that it's punishing mom. These are the things that you need to consider when you're out there. I told you not to use, and you're now using. Goes with you. I'm sorry, Mr. Schlossberg. I can't just continue to let people go.
Judge, the drug test yesterday, it came back positive for THC because it was within 14 days of the previous drug test on the 14th.
He tested negative the first time we tested him, and now he tested positive for using marijuana. That's it. There's no, I mean, really. If I don't, I'm enabling the behavior, and that's it.
Yes.
That I'm placing a restriction on, you're not allowed to drive, but I'm placing an additional restriction on your license that you are not allowed to drive any vehicle that doesn't have an ignition interlock on it.
Why does one man keep clashing with the law? 9 charges, 5 trials. Judges and attorneys now face a tough question. How do you break the cycle? Is there a real solution to this constant pattern of recidivism? Stay with us. Addison Reporting uncovers the ongoing fight for a way forward.
You are on bond for DWI, and you've now picked up a new DWI. Sir. You were charged again. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We are going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. On April 24th, 2025, in Harris County, Texas, law enforcement officers were dispatched to a crash. The law enforcement officer spoke with a complaining witness who stated he had gone to the bathroom and heard the defendant crash into the bus. The complaining witness was the bus driver. The complaining witness estimated the damages to be $1,000. Another witness saw the defendant strike the bus, get stuck between the bus and another vehicle, and then exit the driver's side door and try to push the vehicle out. The witness stated after another individual told the defendant they were calling the police, the defendant fled. Another law enforcement officer was alerted to the incident and found the defendant who matched the description given. A witness was able to identify the defendant as the individual driving the vehicle that struck the bus. Another law enforcement officer made contact with the defendant who stated he was coming from an ASTROS game where he drank. The law enforcement officer observed a moderate odor of alcoholic beverage, glossy eyes, and profuse sweat from the defendant. The defendant refused to cooperate on standard field sobriety tests. The defendant refused to provide a specimen. A blood warrant was obtained and executed.
Mr. Gallegos, I'm going to find that there's sufficient probable cause to go forward with the case. I am now taking away your privilege to drive. You are not allowed to drive at all. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
On one ankle, I'm going to put a scram monitor so I know that you're not consuming alcohol. On your other ankle, you will get a GPS monitor, and I'm giving you a curfew because I don't want you out in the middle of the night. And if I find that you're out, I will revoke your bond and make it extremely high. He's on bond for this DWI.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
revoking his bond. You're going to jail today.
Right now?
Right now.
Okay, as far as the monitors, can we
So-
waive the fees?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Can you give my stuff to my mom?
Yes.
So these are conditions. We'll have him sign now. The GPS monitor prior to release.
Are you setting the bond?
Of course. Mr. Gallegos, I want you to understand something. This is an affidavit that you're going to sign to me, that you're going to promise to me you're not going to drive. I don't give a rat's behind what your excuse is. If Jesus comes from heaven and needed to ride to church, you drive. I can have a contempt hearing. You can be facing an additional 6 months in jail and a $500 fine every time you drive. Do you understand? I am now also sending notice to DPS that I'm placing a restriction on, you're not allowed to drive, but I'm placing an additional restriction on your license that you are not allowed to drive any vehicle that doesn't have an ignition interlock on it. This notice is sent to DPS so that every single officer in the state knows that if you are in a vehicle driving, they pull you over, you don't have an interlock, they will take you to jail. Do you understand? As it stands, you are not allowed to drive for any reason. Okay, we'll have him sign this. We'll put him in back. Plead you to the time served in hopes that you're going to go out there and not do it. No, it's not going to happen. We need to figure something else out.
Can you believe it? A failed suicide leads to another crime. A woman found unconscious behind the wheel of a U-Haul truck. But what were the signs that something went wrong? Ghosts, drug driving, and dangerous warnings from the judge. Don't go anywhere. This dramatic trial is just getting started.
Why does this keep happening? Over and over and over. Why does this keep happening? How many cases did you have last year, Mr. Addison?
I have quite a few, sir.
Now, you pled on the 17th of December, and not 3 weeks later, you have now another criminal trespass. How do we stop this from happening?
I need to leave Texas.
No, we don't want you to leave Texas, but we want this to stop happening. Why would I keep doing this?
Officers don't like me out there, man. They be harassing me. They beat me up. They assaulted me. They put me in the hospital. They tried to kill me.
So why go back?
What do you mean?
Why go back to the same location over and over if you know that they're going to beat you up?
I'm in the state of Texas, not just this area. The state of Texas, the laws don't like me. The police don't like me, sir.
That's baloney because you're a likable guy. We all like you, Mr. Addison. You seem like a stand-up guy, get nice, but you keep going back. Why would I keep doing this? You know, we hit you with a time served, we let you out, 2 weeks later you pick up a new case. And it's been like that for the last damn year. Where's your family? Who do you have in your life?
I don't have nobody in my life, sir. All my family is dead. My twin just died not too long ago.
You ain't got no kids?
But they grown here, but I can't find them
Why not?
because their mother hid them from me.
You ever tried to find them?
Yes,
How?
through the internet. Through the internet, sir.
I don't know, Lori. We're doing the same shots over and over and over. And last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cases just last year. You pled at the end of December. January, you've got a new case. We let you out. You took off on us 2 more times. And the only reason we have you now is because you picked up an interference. And now we're doing the same thing over. I'm not going to do this. I'm done, Mr. Addison. I'm not going to continue to do this. Plead you to the time served in hopes that you're going to go out there and not do it. No, it's not going to happen. We need to figure something else out. Thank you. That's very sweet. But I'm not going to do this. We need to do what I'm going to do now, what's called a TRAS, to see how we go forward. Because I don't know enough about you and what's going on in your life to figure out how we go forward so you stop picking up criminal cases. I told you that many moons ago that I'm going to stop doing this. And now is the time. I'm not doing it, Ms. Addison. We will set this case for a TRAS. I'm going to try to expedite to get it done as fast as we can. I'm done. What I'd like to do, and the hope is that somehow you, me, and Lori can figure out what kind of family you have in the United States so that we can get you somewhere where you stop getting in trouble. But it's not working what we're doing. And I'm not going to continue to, this is not a revolving door. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's what we're going to do. So Lori, I'm sorry, but let's set it for a TRAS and we'll come back next week. Do you mind expediting it? It's obviously, Friday is just too soon, but perhaps maybe Monday we can get the TRAS done? Yeah. All right. Mr. Beadle.
I don't think so.
Okay, I need you to fill out an application for me and I'll take a look to see whether you qualify. I will have you go, oh, you said she has a valid license?
A tense hearing is underway. The report clearly stated no banned substances, but the test results? Still positive. Will the judge accept the plea before the lawyer's defense? Or will there be serious consequences for violating the court's order again? Stay tuned for the fierce confrontation and the judge's final decision.
Good morning, Ms. Hines.
Good morning.
Ma'am, you're charged with driving while intoxicated. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We're going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you, ma'am. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sorry, I'm having trouble loading it. Okay, here we go. On April 23rd, 2025, in Harris County, Texas, law enforcement officers were dispatched to a suicide. Upon arrival, law enforcement officers found the defendant in the driver's seat of a U-Haul truck, slumped over the steering wheel. The law enforcement officer observed bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, and unbalance from the defendant. The passenger, the co-defendant, was detained and a crack pipe fell out of the co-defendant's pocket. The law enforcement officers found foil with narcotics residue on the passenger seat of the vehicle. The defendant admitted to taking Xanax that morning, and standard field sobriety tests were conducted. A 6 out of 6 was recorded on the HGN, a 2 out of 8 on the walk and turn, a 0 out of 4 on the one-leg stand. The defendant consented to a blood test. A wheel witness stated they saw the U-Haul in motion, pull into the driveway of a house across the street, and then walked over to the U-Haul and saw the defendant in the driver's seat.
You said they did field sobriety tests? They've taken them to the station? What?
Yes, Your Honor. Standard field sobriety tests were conducted. 6 out of 6 on the HGN, 2 out of 8 on the walk and turn, and a 0 out of 4 on the one-legged stand.
Blood test, breath test?
It was a consensual blood test.
Any prior to the eyes?
No, Your Honor.
Signs I'm going to find that there's sufficient probable cause to go forward with the case. I don't know if you have a problem with drugs or alcohol. Now is the time for you to address it, because I'm telling you, if it becomes a problem while you're on bond, I'm going to address it for you. And I promise you're not going to like the way that I do it. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
I'm ordering you not to use alcohol, illegal drugs, unprescribed controlled medication. I'm going to test you, and I'm going to test you probably within a week. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Do not use. If you have a problem, now is the time for you to do whatever you need to do to address it. You have the ability to hire a lawyer, ma'am.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I need you to fill out an application for me, and I'll take a look to see whether you qualify. I will have you go, oh, you said she has a valid license?
It is eligible.
Okay, you're also not allowed to drive unless you have valid liability insurance in your name, and that is also a condition of your bond. Do you understand, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna have you go to Victoria, sign a reset. Deputy Miranda is gonna give you an application. I need you to fill it out for me. When you're done, you can bring it back to us and we'll take a look. Please. Okay. Mr. Royalty, I'm gonna find that there's sufficient probable cause to go forward with the case. I'm ordering you now as a condition of your bond not to consume alcohol, illegal drugs.
A bizarre gas station accident reveals a shocking truth. The defendant wasn't just driving drunk, he was inhaling laughing gas and carrying a dangerous arsenal of so-called toys. How will the judge respond to this outrageous case? Is there any truth to the report? Watch this hearing to find out.
Good morning, Mr. Royalty.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you're charged with driving while intoxicated. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We're going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. On April 24th, 2025, a law enforcement officer was dispatched to a Shell gas station in Harris County, Texas. Upon arrival, the officer observed the motor vehicle to have crash damage and to be disabled and inoperable. The law enforcement officer observed the defendant sitting in the driver's seat. The law enforcement officer observed constricted pupils, slow speech, and unsteady balance. The defendant stated that he was driving his vehicle before the accident and that he does not know what he wrecked into. The defendant stated he did not know where he was coming from before the crash. The defendant stated he consumed one alcoholic beverage. He also stated that he inhaled nitrous oxide approximately 20 minutes before the crash. Standard field sobriety tests were conducted. A 0 out of 6 was recorded on the HGN, a 3 out of 8 on the walk and turn, a 2 out of 4 on the one-leg stand. The law enforcement officer observed an empty bottle of vodka on the driver's side floorboard, an empty vodka bottle inside the center console, and a half-empty beer in the back seat. The law enforcement officer observed 3.3 liters of space gas containers of nitrous oxide and 14 1-liter nitrous oxide containers. The defendant is the registered owner of the motor vehicle. The defendant agreed to a breath test strip. However, the law enforcement officer notes that there was an interferent error and the breath test was unable to be collected. The law enforcement officer called for a drug recognition expert who completed an evaluation. The drug recognition expert stated the defendant is under the influence of cannabis and is unable to operate a motor vehicle safely. The defendant consented to a blood test and a sample was collected.
Okay. Mr. Royalty, I'm going to find that there's sufficient probable cause to go forward with the case. I'm ordering you now as a condition of your bond not to consume alcohol, illegal drugs, unprescribed controlled medication, and that includes nitrous oxide, whippets, anything of this nature. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
If I find that you use, I will revoke your bond, put you in jail, no more PR bonds. Any priority to PIs?
No priority to
License?
eligible.
And you may continue to drive as long as you have a license and liability insurance in your name. If you don't have either, then you're not allowed to drive. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Do you have the ability to hire a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I can have you fill out an application. We'll take a look to see whether you qualify. I need to know everything about you, how much money you have at the bank, what you do for a living, what kind of car you drive, how much money you have coming in, and I'll take a look to see whether you qualify. Deputy Miranda is going to give you the application. I'll have you sign a receipt with Victoria, and then we'll have you take a seat in the jury box, sir. Sir, please.
Judge, that's it for now.
Okay.